During my childhood, my parents had me when they were in their early 20s, still green and naive, and not yet out of their ignorance. At that time, they just stepped into society, and the pressure of work was like surging waves, hitting them one after another. The hardships of life were etched on their tired faces prematurely and inadvertently turned into deep resentment towards me. I once tried hard to win their love. Every time I helped with the housework obediently, even if my small hands were sore, every excellent grade I achieved through hard work, expecting their approving gaze, every sincere and caring word from the bottom of my heart, longing to warm their hearts. But no matter how hard I tried, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. I couldn't get any warm response and was constantly ignored emotionally by them. Even in front of relatives and friends, they only pretended to be harmonious and happy. Once, after a lively family gathering, I looked at them, my eyes full of confusion and grievance, and summoned the courage to ask, "Mom and Dad, why are you so cold to me at home but pretend to be so good outside?" They were stunned for a moment, and a trace of embarrassment and annoyance flashed across their faces. My father glared at me fiercely and threatened in a low voice, "Don't talk nonsense, kid. If you dare to talk nonsense, see how I deal with you." My mother turned her head away with disgust and said impatiently, "Don't make a fool of yourself here. Hurry back to your room." I was full of grievance with tears swirling in my eyes, but I could only swallow my tears and silently ask myself in my heart, am I really so unpopular? Is it that I haven't done well enough? Why can't they love me like the parents of other children? Around my 8th birthday, my mother was pregnant with a second child. That day, the birthday party that should have belonged to me changed its flavor because of the news of my mother's pregnancy. They announced the arrival of this new life joyfully, and the happiness shining on their faces made me feel extremely confused and lost. I stood silently in the corner, watching relatives and friends surrounding my parents and sending blessings one after another. It felt like a heavy punch in my heart, and I secretly thought, is my position going to be replaced? Will they love me even less in the future? Will there still be a place for me in this family? Am I redundant? Not long after, my mother silently packed my luggage, her movements quick and decisive, as if she couldn't wait for me to leave. My father pulled me aside seriously and said coldly, "You go to live at your aunt's house. You haven't performed well here. We hope you can have a better environment." I burst into tears immediately, tightly grabbed my father's ear and cried out, "I don't want to leave. I will be obedient. Please don't send me away. I will try to do better. I promise. I will be more obedient and cause you less trouble. I will try to become what you expect, as long as you don't abandon me." But they had made up their minds and were not moved at all. My father even waved his hand impatiently and said, "Stop making a fuss. Eamon, this has been decided and can't be changed. If you go to your aunt's house, it will be good for everyone. Don't cry and whine here." What does it look like? After coming to my aunt's house, I was very unaccustomed in the beginning days and often hid under the covers and cried secretly, thinking, why don't Mom and Dad want me anymore? Am I really that bad? What did I do wrong? Why are they so cruel? I really want to go home and return to my previous life. Every night, I would look out of the window at the starry sky, missing that once familiar yet strange home, recalling the bits and pieces when I was with my parents, even though those memories were full of coldness and neglect. When my aunt heard my crying, she would gently walk into the room, sit by the bedside, gently stroke my head and say, "Child, don't be afraid. This is your home. Aunt will always love you. No matter what happens, Aunt will be by your side. Don't cry. Go to sleep. Amadra, tomorrow will be a new day." Aunt's voice was like the warm sun in spring, warming my injured heart little by little. Slowly, with my aunt's meticulous care, my life has undergone earth-shattering changes. My academic performance has been improving steadily, and I have received praise from teachers and love from classmates at school. I have also made many like-minded friends, playing, studying, sharing happiness and troubles together. One day, I finally couldn't hold back and confided to my aunt, "Do you know, my parents have never really liked me. They think I'm a burden." My aunt hugged me tightly with heartache, with tears flashing in her eyes, and, "Child, don't think about those unhappy things. ever aunt will give you full love in the future. You have to believe that you are worthy of being loved. In aunt's heart, you are the best child. Don't deny yourself because of their mistakes. You have unlimited potential and value. Oh. I leaned in my aunt's arms, feeling the long-lost warmth, and secretly vowed, I must live well and make them regret abandoning me. I will prove to them that I can live well and thrive without their love. 12 years later, on an ordinary day that couldn't be more ordinary, my parents suddenly contacted me and said urgently on the phone, "Child, come home after graduation. We want to give ourselves another chance to be good parents." I was full of doubts, and my voice carried a trace of coldness and ridicule. "Why do you suddenly say this now? You never cared about me before. Where were you when I needed you the most? Do you think of me now? Is there any other purpose?" They stammered to explain that it turned out that my sister had become a problem child even more serious than me, and they wanted me to go back to prove that they could raise children well. I shouted angrily, "You are too selfish. I won't go back. Why should I help you save face? Have you ever thought about my feelings? Am I just a tool in your hearts to prove your so-called parenting ability?" But they accused me of being disobedient. My mother cried on the phone, "How can you be so cruel? We are your parents after all. Everyone gone, and have you forgotten the grace of raising you? Even if we did something wrong before, you can't be so heartless. Can't you understand our difficulties?" I still firmly said, "You have never fulfilled your responsibilities as parents. When I needed you the most, you abandoned me. Now don't expect me to go back. The harm of those years cannot be compensated with just a few words. Is your so-called grace of raising me just throwing me away like garbage?" They kept pestering, and my father even threatened, "If you don't come back, you will regret it later. You will be accused of being unfilial. Everyone will criticize you. Aren't you afraid of being pointed at by relatives and friends?" I responded coldly, "The one who will regret is not me. I have long been completely disappointed in you. Your threats are useless to me. I don't care what others say. I only know that you don't deserve to be parents." The later I learned that my sister was caught smoking at her 12th birthday party. My mother broke down crying. "How did this child become like this? What should I do? It's all my fault for not educating her well." My father sighed helplessly. "It's all because we didn't educate her well." What's the use of saying this now? Let's think about how to solve it. We have already lost the eldest one. We can't lose the second one again. My parents were therefore criticized by the family. The family didn't believe my parents' explanation of my sister's smoking incident and discussed one after another. It's all because they didn't teach well and are still looking for excuses. Banthera, they were bad to the eldest one before, and now the second one is like this. They don't deserve to be parents. I really don't know what they were thinking and ruined the good children. My aunt finally told the real reason why my parents sent me away, which was to take care of my sister wholeheartedly. My aunt said angrily, "How could they be so cruel? It's so unfair to you. Don't be soft-hearted. Don't let them succeed. Here you have to think for yourself and don't be hurt by them again. They are selfish and only consider themselves." Fortunately, after my grandparents learned the truth, they decided to fight for custody of my sister. My grandmother said firmly, "We can't let the child grow up in such an environment. We have to give the child a normal growing environment. We can't let the child be ruined in their hands. We have to be responsible for the child's future." At present, they have obtained temporary custody. My sister was a little indifferent to this huge change at first. I tried to communicate with her. "Sister, don't be afraid. Things will get better in the future. Anyway, I will be by your side. Let's face it together." She began to try to build a connection with me and said to me on the phone, "Brother, before Mom and Dad wouldn't let me contact you. Actually, I always wanted to have a brother. They always spoke ill of you, but I don't think you are like what they said. I felt so lonely. Now I finally have you. This made me full of expectations for our relationship. I silently prayed in my heart, I hope my sister can walk out of the shadow and live a happy life. We will all have a bright future. I must take good care of her and let her feel true family affection. I believe that as long as we support each other, we will be able to overcome difficulties.